Hello and welcome everyone. This is Tighten Up Talk Live. We are so glad to have you in, and we are welcome to have your thoughts, your comments. Please interact with us. Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And tonight I am joined by our man, Blake Shoemaker. Blake, how are you doing this evening?
Doing great, man. It's always a better broadcast after a win. Am I right?
It 100%. You don't have to make up excuses, really, with a win in that
That's true.
respect. But let's jump right into this. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to encourage you to share our show, share it in your timeline on whatever platform you are currently watching us on. And Blake, we were talking at Parkway Poorhouse, which is home to our Tennessee Titans fan group, the Chattanooga Titans. That right before kickoff, we had already locked up a playoff spot with, I believe it was the Miami Dolphins lost. So that granted us a position. Now, we didn't know what seed we were going to be at that point. What were kind of some of your thoughts and feelings going in to that game that we'd already locked up the playoff spot. We had a lot of questions. Was Derrick Henry going to hit 2,000 yards? Could our kicker perform? And what Titans team is going to show up?
I thought it was really cool. I know that our joke all season has been, wouldn't it be nice to be the fan of a team that didn't have a do or die situation in their final game? And we came as close as you could be to that situation without actually doing it yet again. So it was nice to know that we had a playoff spot locked up, but then the question became, who do we face in the next round? So it did take a little bit of the pressure off. It made the stress level, I think, a little bit more manageable. As the game went on and the Titans defense did what the Titans defense has often done this year, and that is make it way more interesting than it needs to be. But I thought it was really good. Speaking of Parkway Poorhouse, credit to everybody who was at the watch party. The Poorhouse was rocking this past week. And I got to tell you, to see that kind of a crowd showing up and that kind of an atmosphere before the playoffs even start, can't wait to see where it goes from here.
Oh, yeah. Last year, with that deep playoff run that we made, we blew the roof off the place. And that was probably our largest crowd that we had all year long leading up to the playoffs. So I agree with you. I think it's going to be a fantastic showing of people, and we just got to keep getting them out. Well, let's see. We're Kings of the South. And it's been a long, long time, 12 years since we've won our division. And we've had an amazing run so far. So, Blake, let's start kind of breaking down this Titans win over the Texans. Give me your highlights. Give me your thoughts.
Well, I think it begins and ends with Derrick Henry. You know, you said we went into the game wondering if he could get to 2,000. I'm going to be honest here and say that going into the game, I knew he would have a good game. I really didn't think he would get the yards he needed to get to 2,000, but as Derrick Henry often does, he makes a believer out of the non-believing. So to have not only a great game, but to have the best game of his young career with 250 yards on the ground,
Yes.
Statement. The offense was great. Tannehill on fire, wide receivers, a little bit of Corey Davis drop showing up. So we need to get that knocked out before we get a little bit further down the road. The offense was making a lot of big plays, but wow, the defense. Wow, the defense against the Texans. And of course, that's what I was afraid of, with a mobile quarterback who's a running threat. It seems that historically we have struggled against those mobile quarterbacks. And it's interesting to see that, this whole year we've been hanging our hat on the Adoree Jackson situation about finally getting Adoree back. Well, Adoree's been back for 3 games now, and Adoree is not really doing much of anything. In fact, the amount of points the Titans are giving up per game has gone up to over 34 points a game, which in the last 3 games is 7 points worse than before of all the other games we were averaging. So things don't seem to be better. They seem to be getting worse. So that really gives me, the playoff strategy is very simple. We're not going to be shutting down a lot of people. We're just going to have to score and score and score. And if anybody, can do it, why not us? The Chiefs did it last year. The Chiefs, had a bottom of the top 10 defense that got scored on a lot, but it didn't matter because they could outscore them. And this team definitely has the potential to do that. And then, the final kick, Nothing comes easy for this franchise. So
No.
when he kicks the first one through, and we're excited, and then we realize they called timeout. It's like, okay, we have to do this one more time. And just seeing that ball headed straight at that upright. I was talking to Brian before the cast tonight, and you can see it on our social media. Just watch the video, and every time you watch the video, watch a different person's face. The confusion, the what just happened as the ball hits the upright, and nobody knows if it went through or not for a good 3 or 4 seconds before everybody realizes that we actually pulled it off. So got a little lucky on the final kick, but I think a win is a win in my book. I mean, it's the first division title, first double-digit win total since 2008. And if you look at the era of the team since it moved to Tennessee, only 4 teams, this being the 4th occurrence, have had double-digit wins and a division title. So regardless of what happens the rest of the way, this is a very special group that we have here. But I'm interested to see what you think about it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I totally agree with the assessment as far as, the way Kansas City won last year. Their, defense wasn't all that fantastic. But they could just put up the points. And this has been the most prolific Titans offense that I have ever seen, that I can ever remember. But maybe outside of that, 2008 team that went to the playoffs. We've had some tough players, but this team has just got the right recipe in order to put up these points. First half, I think it was a tale of 2 halves, really. The first half, the Texans were hanging kind of right in there with us. The first, 2 possessions were field goals for both teams. And then we come down, and I believe we score on there. We hold the lead through halftime, and then our defense decides to give up some monster plays down the field. Deshaun Watson, Brandon Cooks just torched us. So I'm not expecting, we've been talking about our defense all year long, and I don't expect to have a magic bullet to come along all of a sudden and there were this fantastic shutdown defense in the secondary. Now, I think our run defense has been pretty decent during the year, but the glaring obvious defect is our secondary. And if you look at the teams that are in the or in the playoffs right now, the balance between run and pass is pretty significant. Outside of the Browns and the Ravens, they do have a pretty balanced offense. If you look at the number of touchdowns, passing versus rushing, they're almost identical, just like the Titans. But the teams such as, and we're not worried about NFC right now, but the AFC teams, such as they've got a high pass, like the Steelers. They are pretty much a passing offense now. Their numbers don't support a whole lot of rushing. So I thought we were going to have a tough game, and that's what it turned out to be, because we went into overtime on the very first one, and guess what happens? We almost went to overtime again.
Very close.
Very close. But thank goodness. And the Texans, they started having a little momentum shift where they did the fake punt. And then they come back.
That's ridiculous that we couldn't sniff that out. I mean, my gosh, A.J. McCarron was out there. What did you think was going to happen? That was a pretty big miss.
Absolutely. 100%. And then how about I think we were at 31-21 at this point. And the spin move, the blind spin move that knocked the ball out of Derrick Henry's hand for the fumble. That could happen maybe once in a million times, I think.
Mm-hmm. And doesn't happen very often with Henry.
No, not at all. Not at all. He did lose 2 balls that game, but he recovered one of them, and that one just got away from him. Does Henry's lack of, and it's not been a big problem, but it seems to have raised its head a little bit here in the last part of the season about a little bit of ball security. Now he gets a ton of touches, right? Mm-hmm. Does that outweigh the number of fumbles that he's starting to produce.
I mean, I think when you compare him against the other backs in the league, the other ones that you would consider elite, I think that, looking at the number of fumbles versus the number of carries, he's still way ahead of most others. And I think we did a really good breakdown of this a few episodes ago when we were comparing him against some of the greats, comparing him against Chris Johnson and comparing him with Eddie George, looking at how many more fumbles, even Earl Campbell. I mean, I think Earl Campbell had way in the double-digit fumbles. I think somewhere around like 30 some odd fumbles or 40 some odd fumbles in his career. I think it's just kind of an evolution of the game. Ball security wasn't a big thing back in those days, but he's had a couple of instances here lately. It just seems that they happen in the very pivotal moments. Like he had one early. When it goes wrong, it all goes wrong.
Right.
So, to have him in very pivotal moments when it happened in this game and he lost the fumble, I was scratching my head a little bit, hoping that it wouldn't come back to do it. But, I think it was just a little bit, they're butterflies, man. I mean, it's win your first division title in 12 years. And, to have the rushing title locked up and to have a shot at history, which he later did in that game, was a pretty amazing thing.
We were counting down the yards when he was starting to get I think I started believing after he hit that 52-yard run kind of early in the game. And I was like, okay. And we were joking. I was joking with Chase Green earlier before the game started. I was like, okay, Chase, he just needs 2 of those, 99-yard runs and he's got it, he's going to get it. But of course it didn't work out like that, but he started breaking off those chunk runs that we didn't see. Green Bay was a whole other different beast with snowing. Didn't have a great game, and then I think a lot of people were hanging their heads that it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But he did. He had a fantastic rushing game the first time against the Texans, and you almost had that belief that maybe he could do it again. And sure enough, breaking off 250 yards. Incredible.
3 games in a row, like over 200 yards against the Texans. Just unreal.
Incredible. He's becoming to own the Texans like he owns the Jaguars in that respect. Very much so. Turning our attention a little bit to Corey Davis. Had some big drops in that game. And he started to come on at the end of this, or not this year, has been almost, I hate to say a breakout year, but he has been pretty damn good. And, but he was so close to 1,000 yards.
He was,
so close.
And you hate to see those few drops cost him that, because it is a contract year and there are going to be some tough decisions made in the offseason. I don't think that overshadows what he did this year. I think that we saw from him this year what we hoped to see from him a couple of years ago. Will it be enough for him to earn a spot with the roster again, or will he look elsewhere for the big contract? That time will tell. I really hope we're able to keep Brown and Davis, though. I mean, the fact that you have receiver 1 and 1A, it's a nightmare to cover with that rushing attack and the tight ends that we have. So I really would like to keep that together if at all possible. I'm solidly in the sign Corey Davis camp.
Sign Corey Davis. Do you know how many yards he was short?
Gosh, it wasn't by much. 40, maybe 40 yards.
16 yards.
Wow, even closer than I thought. 16
yards. If he would have secured one of those drops, I think that probably would have tilted we'd have had 2 1,000-yard receivers and then a 2,000-yard rusher.
Yep, that would have been the first time in 16 years to have 2,000-yard receivers. Been a while.
And what the other part of that history we were chasing, was it 4,000 yards for Tannehill?
I think it was.
If we had 4,000 yards passing, 2,000 yards rushing, and 2 1,000-yard rusher or receivers, I think that would have been the first time in NFL history that
I think I remember reading that. I think you're right.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching our broadcast right now, please give us your thoughts. Drop us a little comment there in Facebook or Instagram, or in Periscope or on YouTube. We would love to hear your thoughts and join our conversation. This is for the people. This is for you. We're not here just to entertain ourselves. We want to entertain you, and we would love to hear your thoughts and have a conversation with you. The other little notable I would like to on the defensive side for this game, and then we'll kind of move it on to our next topic of giving our regular season grades on our offense, defense, and special teams, is the Titans. They totaled 4 sacks during that game, more than I think we had all season long.
That was pretty amazing. It felt like we had more sacks in that game than we had the whole rest of the season. I know that's not accurate, but it sure felt that way.
So big, again, rain defense, I think is we're doing okay. If we can just shore up that pass defense, then I think we can make a deep run once again. Or just score more points, right? Just score more points.
Keep scoring.
Keep scoring. All right. Well, Blake, let's roll right into our next topic here. And we're looking at the regular season as a whole. So we're going to grade each unit, all 3 phases of the game for the Titans, their offense, their defense, and special teams. And let's start with the big sexy, the offense. Blake, what do you got?
Well, I mean, let's look at the report card. I mean, we're going to break it down a little bit. Quarterback play, I've got him at a solid A. Tannehill played all 16 games of the season, which is a bigger deal than you would think, considering there are only 2 other quarterbacks in franchise history since moving to Tennessee that managed to play all 16 games in a season.
Wow.
Want to guess what those are?
So since they come to Tennessee, I will say I think McNair is there since he his battle tested. He always played.
Obvious answer, but the other
no matter what. And the other one, we've had some good ones. It's not going to be, of course, it's not Mariota. He never played a full season.
Nope.
It's not going to be Jake Locker. He was glass jaw as well. So I'm going to go with maybe a dark horse. It's Hasselbeck.
You're right. Matt Hasselbeck.
Woo-hoo! What?
So, yeah, only Ryan Tannehill, Steve McNair, and Matt Hasselbeck have finished all 16 games of regular season season since the team moved to Tennessee. 33 touchdowns for Tannehill, ties for second best all-time in a single season with Warren Moon back in 1990, and that's third all-time in yards for a season. So he had a great year. The only reason I give him an A and not an A+ is that sometimes Ryan has a tendency to try to force the ball in there when he should just take a sack or just throw it away. He's had some ill-timed interceptions. That's just me nitpicking, though. You got to be perfect to get the A+, and he's been darn close to it, but I think an A is nothing to sneeze at. No. I think it's really exciting, too, if you're a Titans fan, not just the season that Ryan had this year or even last year, but looking where he is now on the franchise record books. Guy's already 8th all-time in Titans-Oilers yardage at passer in not even 2 full seasons of work. Number 1, of course, Warren Moon, Steve McNair, number 2, George Blanda, Dan Pastorini, Marcus Mariota at 5, then Vince Young, Kerry Collins, and Ryan Tannehill. So Ryan Tannehill only has 28 games, and Kerry Collins is only less than 300 yards ahead of him, and he had to play 15 more games to get it. Ryan is by leaps and bounds climbing up this chart, and I know that we're going to have him under contract for at least a couple more years.
That's right.
I'm very excited to see what he's going to do, but an A, solid A in his second season. Running back, go ahead. Well,
I was going to say, do you think, before we leave on Tannehill, do you think that is sustainable in the years going forward?
I mean, I don't see anything to hold him back. I mean, I really didn't think. I mean, I think a lot of people thought last year. So this is a great segue into this. There's a clip making the rounds on Twitter that was from the show First Things First. A guy named Nick Wright had some comments in the offseason last year talking about how dumb the Titans GM was to give Tannehill a long-term deal, to try to franchise Derrick Henry, and then to not franchise Derrick Henry, but to give him a team-friendly, deal, and how it was so dumb that he felt like he could be an NFL GM. Well, maybe not, buddy. So Ryan had the awesome year last year. If we were being honest, I wasn't sure he would be able to replicate that, but he's exceeded it by leaps and bounds. So I I don't see anything to tell me that he's going to slow down anytime soon. So I'm excited about what's to come.
I agree with that. You know, he's been, everybody says he's been rejuvenated in Tennessee. And I think he's maybe just now kind of finding his stride here as well. So I think that's going to also have a lot to do with, will we have Arthur Smith back as a coordinator as well? So the jury's on that, is out on that, but we'll see. So continue along with your assessment.
Running back. What are you going to say? If you're not going to give it an A+, if a 2,000-yard season and being the 8th guy in the history of the league to rush for 2,000 yards is not enough to get you an A+, I gave him an A++ just because I can. These are my rankings. I can do whatever I want to.
That's right.
That's right. So, and we'll get more into Derrick Henry in our last segment, but, can't complain about the running game at all. I mean, yes, he's had a couple of fumbles, but who's gone through a season without a couple of fumbles?
Exactly.
Wide receiver play, I say A. I give him an A. A little bit of inconsistency at times and some drops, not just from Corey Davis, but from A.J. Brown. He's had some drops in some pivotal moments. So I've given him an A, but they're still explosive in spite of that. Tight end, I gave him an A-.
Okay.
Not a ton of yardage, not a lot of flashy stats. I mean, if you look at yardage, Jonnu Smith is ranked tight end 20 in yardage this season. So nothing flashy. But they've been asked to do a lot with the blocking schemes, with a lot of the injuries we've had to the offensive line this year. And let's not forget, Jonnu Smith has 8 touchdowns on the year. All right. Frank Wycheck's best season was 6 in a season. And we've got Jonnu Smith hauling in 8 of them.
8 of them.
So, yeah, very exciting.
And I think every single tight end on our roster has scored a touchdown.
Yeah, I think you're right. Swain, Ferkser, I think I remember all of them doing
Michael
it.
Pruitt,
that's right. So, and then the last subject on offensive line, which was a big deal early in the year, especially after the Lewan injury. Not the best, definitely not the worst, and I think they've overachieved. I gave them a solid B+. It is amazing what they've been able to do, considering all the shuffling they've had to do, considering the injuries to Lewan, Sambrilo, everything that's going on, and especially not having your number 1 draft pick, Isaiah Wilson, out there, which grind my gears moment. Okay.
Yes.
I have one piece of podcast. You know what's going to happen.
Bring it.
So I work as a pharmacist, well documented. If I had a problem and had to take a leave of absence from work due to personal issues, I need to take a leave of absence, especially in the times of COVID. And then I proceed to post on my Instagram and Facebook and Twitter while I'm on leave on the company dime. If I post and I'm partying it up on a boat, drinking, throwing money all over the place, I wouldn't have a job very long, would I?
No.
That would be very irresponsible on my part. I'm a pharmacist. I need to set an example. I'm not an idiot. I need to know what I'm doing. Right. Isaiah Wilson left team activities and the team, God bless them, they're giving him way more chances than I would have. And they come out and make this very supportive statement that he had some personal issues that he needed to work through and that the team has his support. And I get that he's a kid. I get that he's barely out of college. Mm-hmm. How many chances are you going to have as a first-round draft pick to not basically be the infamous person who basically threw it all away without even he's played a few snaps in meaningless end of game situations. I'm look, I know people can change, but he has shown me absolutely nothing to show me that he deserves these second chances. If he's a panda, he's a trash panda to me. Because grow up, you're not a kid anymore.
Yes.
You're a grown man. Act like it.
Yes, and you have to wonder, has the guys in the locker room reached out to him and say, man, you are throwing it away before it's even begun. Yes, you made it to the NFL. You were the number 1 draft pick. But since then, what have you done? And that is nothing. You have caused heartache and distress on your teammates, on your coach, on your GM, and on your owner. And that is about it.
And that wraps up my offensive rankings. So what do you think? You agree, disagree?
I find no fault in those rankings whatsoever. I was a little bit more generic. I just went with a grade as a whole, and I have to give it an A plus all around. This again, I said it before. This is the most prolific offense a Titans fans have ever seen, and I'm just thrilled that. Derrick Henry, for one, got the 2,000 yards. At the end of the day, it's a little bit meaningless, but for franchise history, we've had two 2,000-yard rushers. It hasn't been done since Adrian Peterson, I think, since 2012. So it's not something that happens every season. So I think that's just amazing. And I really want to give a big credit to Kevin Carter, the offensive line coach, because he has just had everything thrown at him this year with Taylor Lewan going out. And then, like, as you said, Sambrailo going on IR. He's made third string talent serviceable and was able to open those holes for Derrick Henry. So I think that is underappreciated by most of the fans, because we love to see those big runs and the big throws, but at times they have given Tannehill great protection, and I said at times, and then Derek has done his thing behind that offensive line, and I think that is a big accomplishment for our guy, for Nashville's dad, going out so early as he did, and to be able to replicate a season that we had last year, as far as going into the playoffs and even winning more games than we did last year. So yeah, I think that's my biggest takeaways on the offense is A+ offensive line and our man Derrick Henry. Moving on to defense. What do you got on defense?
So I didn't have the heart or the stomach to break down the defense. So in sticking with our report card theme, if the defense had to earn a score, it would be, if it were a college course, it would be a pass-fail class. Because there are very, very few things to get excited about on the defense. I would say very few passing grades. I have hated almost everything I have seen on defense, from the lazy play of Kevin Byard at safety to Malcolm Butler, obviously a bright spot. Butler, one of the oldest people on that defense, yes, playing like one of the youngest, most talented. So shout out to Malcolm Butler.
Big time.
Big Jeff making some big plays here and there, drawing a lot of double teams, creating a lot of chaos. Big fan. But the consistency and not getting any pressure on a quarterback. I mean, you can have Uncle Rico at quarterback with the level of play that we have, and he would have won the state title, but it makes it difficult to get excited about anything. So, if I had to give an overall grade for the defense, not passing.
Not passing.
No.
Well, I was between grades, quite frankly. I was for a D to a C minus, and it's important to have an opinion here. So I'm going to go C minus, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
C minus. They did have to overcome quite a bit as well themselves. Clowney. We thought Clowney was going to be our savior for pass rusher. He has been amazing and comes in. And if there was a stat for almost sacks, then he got it. MVP, baby. He almost got it. However, that didn't come to fruition, apparently battling some knee injury, and then finally went out with a knee surgery that he's on IR, and we won't see him the rest of the season. Vic Beasley, we thought we could rejuvenate his career from Atlanta. And unfortunately, he started off rough in camp and ended rough. It just did not pan out. So we were hoping he was going to be another leader on the defense, and turned out that I just don't think he loves football anymore. And then with Adoree Jackson being out all year long, again, he's come back for 3 games, hasn't been a huge influence. but it's better than Jonathan Joseph.
Yes. Although, to be fair, I would be better than Jonathan Joseph.
So those type of reasons, and let's not forget, we do not have a true defensive coordinator.
That's true.
So
but don't tell Mike Vrabel that. He'll get mad at you.
Yes, sir. It's the buck stops with me, and no, it was a great decision to not hire a defensive coordinator. I'm sorry, Mike. It was a wrong decision. It's okay to admit it. We're all wrong at some points in our life, and we just have to admit that fact. But with those reasons, I think the defense had a lot of things for them to overcome as well. So I'm giving them C-. And Kevin Byard, I think, has come on a little bit better the last few games, and hopefully he's going to make that awesome playoff push that we know he's capable of.
Prove us wrong.
Prove us wrong. Exactly. Prove us wrong. We want you to succeed. We're not here to bash players. We want you to succeed, but you're not giving us anything to tell you that, you're going to have this amazing finish to the season. But I would call it serviceable right now. Moving on. Last phase of our fantastic Titans team is our special teams.
All right. So let's go special teams. So kicking game. Early in the season, they no-showed a couple of exams and just a F all the way across F. But it has improved over the course of the season. Gostkowski hasn't missed a kick since the November 1st game. You can't blame the guy for being sick and on the COVID list right now, so I'm not going to give him that. So a lot of missed kicks early. Too many to ignore, really. I gave him that C-, where he passes, but it's not great. The punter, Brett Kern, of course, an A+. I mean, the dude is a weapon. The dude is automatic. He does not. I mean, there were a couple of games he missed due to injury, but can't blame him for that. When he's out there, dude is a weapon, and he is always flipping the field in our favor. The return game is getting better. The Titans haven't had a legit return game in quite some time. I love seeing Darrington Evans getting some opportunities out there. Didn't get to see him do very much this past week. Really good kick coverage and a lot of, taking the ball out to the 20-25. And also seeing him covering kicks. I mean, he had that great tackle on the punt early in that Titans-Texans game where he just clipped the guy going by and just with one arm, took the guy's leg out from under him and took him down. So, even if Evans isn't able to contribute at running back very much because Derrick Henry being Derrick Henry, it's great to see that he has that talent on special teams that we can utilize in there.
100%. So again, I was a little more broad sweeping with them. And I gave the unit as a whole a B+. We've had some blocked kicks. We've had that A.J. Brown onside recovery for a touchdown. But again, and Brent Kern, fantastic. Can't say anything negative. But again, I think if I have that hole, it's our field goal unit. And again, I think Gostkowski is finding a better rhythm than he did early in the season, because the second game we were like, cut him. He's
done.
He's done. We don't want him anymore. And then what does he do? Come back the next game and starts drilling, every kick. So a lot can be forgiven. we're quick to cut people, but kudos to the coaching team and John Robinson for keeping everybody together. Quite frankly, in that respect. So sometimes, sometimes it's not a coach speak like, oh, we believe in our guy. We believe in our guy. And that belief has to transfer into some type of performance.
Sure.
Well, I think that does it for our grades on our special teams. And last little item here that we're really excited to talk about is these special players that the way have they ended the regular season. We're hoping they're going to continue that into our postseason run here. But you see the Holy Trinity here. We've got, as I call them the Holy Trinity. We've got A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, and Ryan Tannehill. Blake, what do you have on Mr. Henry?
I mean, what an end to the season. I mean, he had a couple of rough games that we thought may have taken him out of the running for the 2000. The game at the Packers was not great. One other one, I think the Bengals game, not awesome. Or the Browns. The Browns is the one I'm thinking of. But to come back and to throw down 250 in the final game, I mean, we've had discussions on here before about where is he going to fall when all is said and done. And he's young in his career, and I know that for every Barry Sanders, there's a DeMarco Murray who's going to have a great season or two, and then you're never going to hear from him again. But I remember, taking myself back in the Wayback Machine a little bit. I remember when the NFL draft was going on, and the round that Derrick Henry was selected in, I was at work, and I was streaming it on my phone as I worked in my pharmacy down at Gulf Shores at the time. And I remember them announcing the Derrick Henry pick and like jumping up and down. I was so excited because being from Alabama, I mean, I'm an Alabama fan too. So what are the odds that your favorite player from your college team gets drafted to your favorite pro team? Not going to happen very often.
No.
And hearing a lot of people doubt early and say, he's a great college back, but look at some of these other Alabama running backs like Trent Richardson that haven't worked out. Well, Mark Ingram's done okay for himself, so you just don't know. But to have a franchise now that has two 2,000-yard rushers, the only franchise to have two 2,000-yard rushers, and to see how they did it so differently.
Yes.
Derrick Henry, physical, run you over, his arm having to be registered in Tennessee is a weapon, from throwing all of these poor people and ending their careers, so to speak. On social media, at least
embarrassments.
Yeah. And then you have, CJ2K, Chris Johnson, who was finesse and speed. And, a lot of people don't remember the year that Chris Johnson rushed for over 2,000 yards. That was an 8-8 season, a really bad year. And it was really the only positive we had to build on. But to see that he could do it in an 8-8 season, I mean, think about it. I mean, I know we're in the playoff push now. Think about the last time you saw an NFL playoff team that their feature attack was a bruising running back. You don't see it a lot now. It's all about the quarterback and the vertical game and the downfield. So I'm interested to see how far they can ride Henry in the playoffs. Derrick Henry with the 5th best season all time for yardage at 2,027. Finishing only behind Eric Dickerson, Adrian Peterson, Jamal Lewis, and Barry Sanders. Very exclusive company to be so young in his career. Sidebar here, Derrick Henry is the 8th running back to rush for over 2,000 yards. 4 of those other 7 in the year they did it were named league MVP.
Interesting.
Which is, I'm not going to have 2 grind my gear moments in the same thing. But why does MVP have to be a quarterback-only award? I mean, why? I mean, yes. I understand that that's the way the game has evolved, but quarterbacks throw for thousands and thousands and thousands of yards every year. How often do you have a running back of the caliber of Derrick Henry come along that rushes for over 2,000? Show the man some respect.
I agree. It doesn't, like I said, I think the last time it happened was Adrian Peterson in maybe 2012.
That's right.
So it's been a while. So you're exactly right. It doesn't happen every season where you see these the quarterbacks piling up more and more yardage, more and more passing touchdowns. And I know the front runner right now is probably Aaron Rodgers. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's because, he doesn't show any signs of really slowing down per se, but is later in his career. And maybe they're trying to give one for the Gipper or whatnot. I know Green Bay fans will argue to the death that it's Aaron Rodgers hands down, no need for further discussion. But you just cannot overlook what Derrick Henry has done. And I agree. Why does it have to be always a quarterback award?
And not a flash in the pan either. This is a guy who has won the rushing title in 2 consecutive seasons for the first time since LaDainian Tomlinson in 2006 and 2007. Break it down a little bit further. We always joke that December is Dehember, all right? And we're about to enter Dehenuary, okay? That's a thing. That's a thing that I just did. Get over it. If you take Derrick Henry and just look at his stats after halftime, third quarter and fourth quarter only, as he wears down defenses and embarrasses the opposing team as the game goes on. If you took this 16-game season and only took Derrick Henry's yardage from the second half of those 16 games, he would still rank 4th in the league in overall rushing for this season. That's unbelievable that he would still be in the top 5 if you just took the guy's third and fourth quarters. Over 1,000, it's 1,076 yards in the third and fourth quarter.
Yeah, amazing. Well, how about let's talk about some of the other boys here. We got some AJ Brown action.
Love AJ Brown. It's amazing that we're 2 seasons in to AJ Brown, and you have 2 1,000-yard receiving seasons. I mean, the guy's a weapon. It's incredible to me, and I always tell everybody this, and they laugh, but it's absolutely true. This is my SEC bias showing through, and my Alabama fans showing through. Think about the fact that Ole Miss had AJ Brown and Metcalf at the same time on the same field and still couldn't do squat with the 2 of them.
Insane.
It's incredible to see that. But I always
if you mention that to some casual football fans or even just college football fans, sometimes, and you say Metcalf and AJ Brown were on the same team, and they're like, they almost don't believe you. It's like, what? Yeah,
seems like it wouldn't be fair. It would be a cheat code, yet they couldn't succeed.
But yeah, that's why these guys, when they've got the skill and they shine at the next level, for sure. And AJ Brown, I think 1,075 yards on the regular season. That averages to 15.4 yards per reception. Incredible. With 11 touchdowns.
Amazing.
Number 11. Got 11 touchdowns so far. And then with Tannehill, we are still number 2 in the league in scoring offense behind Green Bay after that wah-wah game. Yeah. And the Packers have 66 total touchdowns. Titans have 62. 33 of those are the receiving touchdowns from Tannehill. Only 7 INTs. That's not bad.
No.
Passer rating of the complete season of 106.5. So hey, I think we've got something special here.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I know that everybody chalked up last season Tannehill's year as just kind of a fluke thing, and how it was fool's gold to sign him for a long-term deal. And I love that Tannehill didn't complain. He didn't strike back. He just went out there and let his play do the talking for him.
Yeah. Well, and I have to echo Derrick Henry's comments when Brady was on the block, and everyone was like, "Ooh, wonder if Tom Brady would come to the Titans." We're kind of some fans were licking their chops, but Derrick Henry was making the rounds and said, "Why isn't Ryan Tannehill good enough?" And sure enough, true words come. His words come true. And of course, Brady's having a great season in Tampa Bay. Got him to the playoffs for the first time in forever. I think since 2008 or something to that effect.
It's been a while.
But Tannehill is good enough, and he will be here for a while. So I'm looking forward to seeing this go forward. Blake, do you have any other final comments, questions?
Not a ton. I know we have another broadcast coming up later this week on Thursday.
Yes.
We have a very big surprise in store for that. We're going to have an awesome guest. I'm not going to give that away at this point. You're just going to have to tune in to see.
You're not going to
I
want to
know
miss it.
you do not want to miss this episode. Trust you me. But I will say that I know we didn't talk a lot about the upcoming game against the Ravens. We're going to save a lot of that talk for Thursday. We're going to do a
Yes.
full preview, do some breakdowns, talk about what we need to do to actually, pull this off. Can we pull off the hat trick? 3 wins in a row over the Ravens. So, are we capable? Will it actually happen? And we'll talk about some of the keys to that. But look forward to sharing that with you guys later this week. And Thursday, we're more audience interactive. So I'd love to have a bunch of you on the broadcast. Invite your friends, tell your family, tell the people you don't like. Even get anybody. It's all allowed. All opinions allowed. We'd love to see you on Thursday.
Yes. Tune in Thursday. Check our social media. Chat 10 Sports on Facebook, Chat 10 Sports on Instagram, and Chat 10 Sports on Twitter. And as we wrap this up, we want to give a huge thank you to our sponsors. This show is brought to you by Parkway Poorhouse. And if you are looking for a fantastic spot to grab some dinner, some drinks on the patio, maybe some appetizers with your friends, look no further than Parkway Poorhouse. They have a ton of TVs. Even if you're not a Titans fan, they will have your game on. And please get the wings. They are fantastic. And also, please, if you are in need of some manscaping, Manscaped is here for you. And guess what? We have a deal for you. You can get 20% off your order plus free shipping using our code CTS20. CTS20 gets you 20% off with free shipping. And Manscaped has everything for below the waist grooming, from trimmers to deodorants to traveling wipes to fingernail clippers to body wash and hair wash. So don't only think of hair removal, but of maintenance as well. And it's not a bad thing to take care of yourself whatsoever. So again, thank you so much for joining us. Check us out on our Facebook page. We encourage you to join us this coming Thursday. And as we tune out, check out Blake at Blake, the RX guy right there. And I'm at the Brian Hager. And we appreciate your support. And until next time, tighten up.
Tighten up.